Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be making another video about Terrifier 3, an in-depth spoiler conversation about the film. So if you haven't seen our non-spoiler review yet, we recommend you watch that first. And even more so, if you haven't seen the film yet, we recommend you see the film before watching our conversation. There'll be little context or sense to it if you haven't. So having said that, we'll get right into it. So the film picks up where the previous film left off. Art the clown was apparently decapitated by Sienna and left for dead. However, he is then freakishly birthed, or at least his head is freakishly birthed by Victoria in an insane asylum. And the third film reveals in a prologue that his head is restored to his body when his body travels to the insane asylum. And he and Victoria, after murdering a nurse played by Chris Jericho, they escape to an abandoned house. And there they fall into a kind of demonic hibernation for 5 years. And it's after that 5 year period that the film picks up with Sienna having spent years in PTSD because of her experiences. She gets out of a sanatorium, picked up there by her uncle-in-law, and then taken to live with her aunt and him at their house. This film takes place during Christmas, the Christmas season, and is flavored with that grotesque contrast of horror and spiritual pleasantry associated with Christmas. Once Sienna gets into her new environment, she's almost immediately haunted by what she at first takes to be delusions, but which are then eventually revealed to be premonitions. Art and Victoria are on the loose, they're on the kill, and they are coming for Sienna, coming for her brother Jonathan. They want to finish what they've started. Now, I think what's really interesting about this film, first of all, is that Leone doesn't get bogged down in the mythology that he established in the previous film. And in fact, he adds a new element. The element he adds is a storyline that deals explicitly with demonic possession. The new treatment of Art and Victoria that we get now is that they are both demonically possessed. Demonic entities have come out of the spirit realm and taken control of them. So Victoria, when she speaks with a overdubbed, doubled voice, a common device for demonically possessed beings in horror films. So with that storyline, the film also adds extensive use of Christian imagery. Um, at one point, Sienna is crowned with thorns. We have the figure of the crucifixion featured spectacularly in the film's climax. And then we also have one of my favorite moments in the film, the kind of absolutely ghoulish appearance of the Virgin Mary and an art-like demonic entity in the spirit realm that is revealed to Sienna in another vision. Gone is the pale little girl. We don't get any mention of her except in a letter that Jonathan wrote to Sienna. So she's referenced briefly therein, but that aspect of the mythology has just been left to the side, at least for the moment. I was relieved by that because while I think the pale little girl is scary and fascinating, I was also afraid that they were going to spend too much time with that and spend too much time developing Art's backstory instead of going headfirst into the kills and the confrontations and, the set pieces that feature Art, shining the way he can. So, what did you think about the new treatment this film gives Art, the idea that it adds the kind of the Christmas element to it, but also the Christian element by extension?
Sure. I think it's playing off Christian iconography and really amping up the kind of the horror undercurrents of certain Christian images too at the end of the film that I thought were pretty clever and effective. The assumption is that, yeah, Art the Clown was previously a serial killer who was taken possession by a demonic entity. And Victoria Hayes, it's not as clear except for the fact that there's maybe an infection contagion element in the fact that she was victimized by Art the Clown, and because and due to that, she is a corruptible vessel and now open to being taken possession of by a demonic entity herself.
Although that, I mean, the thing I think is interesting about this element of demonic possession is that Leone doesn't feel the need to over-explain it. It's just like kind of like, yeah, there's demonic possession. Boom.
Yeah,
Let's move on with this. Um,
yeah.
which I actually think is very refreshing. I don't getting bogged
Yeah.
down in those storytelling elements in a film like this seems kind of beside the point.
And for the characters, I thought Victoria Hayes was going to be more of a Harley Quinn to Art the Clown's Joker, but she's given a lot more agency and becomes kind of equal to Art the Clown and really a villainous character on a par with him, his character. And one of the most horrific sequences in the movie involve her character. She takes a glass shard while Art the Clown is viciously murdering one of these sanitation workers. She takes the shard of glass and starts pleasuring herself with it. And so, again, that was a moment where, often in horror films, they foreground the male gaze and, male pleasure and enjoyment in the killing. But here you have a female character in control now, and her gaze, her pleasure, her sexual pleasure is very foregrounded there, and that was just very horrific and
Well,
um,
it's horrific because like you can just like I mean it's a visceral reaction. She's like
yeah,
sticking that thing, like using it as a dildo, this jagged thing. It's like
yeah,
ah oh, it's what it, yeah, it's in the running for like the most awful moment in the film.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a very empowering moment in a very perverted, obviously,
Mm.
context. Being the character she is, but very empowering for her character, and I like that they don't water her character down or try to dim the character to make Art's character shine more. They really give them equal play time to really take on that villainous role and make her a strong villain as well and equal to him. So I appreciated
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well, and I think I want to just give a complete shout out to the makeup effects. I think that Victoria's prosthetic is utterly terrifying. I in the non-spoiler review, I talk about how the film to me isn't really very scary and really like the scares are really beside the point. But one of the things I find legitimately creepy is that prosthetic. The missing eye, the one eye that's just like staring out at you, the exposed jaw. It's a really effective looking makeup. There are moments I think where she kind of outshines Art a little bit because she is so terrifying to look at.
Yeah.
I that whole beginning sequence for me, not only the murder of the sanitation workers, but before that, when they hibernate, when specifically they go into that abandoned house, Art sits down in the chair and starts to gaze out the window and goes into an apparent, coma of some kind. Victoria goes into a bathtub, slits her wrist, and appears to bleed out. That's just a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of filmmaking. The cinematography in that sequence and like the way that it's set up with her in the bath and the walls and the kind of grim, desolate setting. Oh, it's so beautiful to look at. I remember just being stunned by it in theaters, this great big sumptuous image of kind of grim Gothic desolation.
They keep you in that nightmare, for
Mhm.
more extended period of time, so you're not just seeing these characters go about the work of killing, you're seeing their downtime too, the world they inhabit, and it just expands the world and the atmosphere and builds that atmosphere where you get a glimpse into this nightmare realm.
Well, yeah, the idea that these characters live in between their murders, right? And what do they do? How do they think? How do they
Yeah.
feel? I mean, the film isn't obviously doesn't do any kind of in-depth exploration of that, but like you said, it tarries with these characters in between those moments long enough for us to just kind of like settle into the ambiance that they create. And it is really unsettling and unique.
Yeah.
Um,
And then maybe in a way
yeah.
creates introduces kind of a tone of banality to it that is
Mm.
equally frightening. That this is this
Um,
uh in their realm ordinary, you know.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that's really interesting, though, is that when you think about the role that enjoyment plays in this film and like what is pleasurable, what's fun, what's playful, Art is always having fun. Victoria isn't always having fun, right? I mean, she enjoys, orgasmically enjoys, sensually enjoys during many moments in the film, but then there are also moments where she's, like in the beginning when she appears to commit suicide, she's seems to be in this kind of like desolateness over her ugliness, so that there's something different prevailing there, that she has another side to her. Art is all play, all surface, all fun. He's never not enjoying himself.
Yeah.
Um, So he continues to be a source of mystery when it comes to like what's underneath that face. And of course, there's
Yeah.
nothing underneath that face.
I want to move over to like the actual kills.
You wanted to talk about the kills. I mean, there's a lot of candidates there.
Yeah.
It's either going to be for me the bathroom sequence where Mia and her boyfriend are murdered by Art, um, or it's going to be the scene near the beginning where Victoria and Art kill the sanitation workers. I think those are the two
Yeah.
major set pieces. With maybe I'll throw in the murder of Santa.
Well, that was
That's definitely a featured one.
sure. And that one probably out of all of them was the one mostly played for laughs. I would say for top kills, like just in terms of like grisly spectacle, the chainsaw sequence in the bathroom, the shower sequence.
Mm,
They're showing testicles getting ripped open
mm.
and them split apart and yeah, they're just like showing you everything. Like we're not gonna hide anything.
Yeah, I think that's the tour de force. What I found really interesting about that is that as always happens with these films, one of the criticisms that's been levied at the franchise is that it's misogynistic. And to me, at this point, it seems useless to deny or clap back at that accusation, right? I mean, these films clearly are preoccupied with and obsessed with, invested in violence against the gendered female body, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't see how you can deny that, although Leone has. Um, but what I think was interesting about this film, and maybe he's sort of self-consciously playing on that for this sequel because of the criticism, is how in that bathroom sequence we get a reversal of the traditional paradigm of violence, which is, the male characters, if they are killed, they tend to be dispatched more quickly, often even off screen. Um, and then more time is spent with the female body and its mutilation, its laceration, its terrorization, right? So it's like the female body is the quote bearer of the bleeding wound in the history and the iconography of the American horror film and horror films in general. That gets reversed here. The Mia, the podcaster, I mean, her death is hardly quick, but she's dispatched in the shower by the chainsaw, and then it's her boyfriend who's left behind on the floor of the bathroom, and Art has this extended sequence with a chainsaw where the violence done to this boy's body is revealing his body as a sexed male body, right? The what he does with the chainsaw is reminiscent of what happens with the bone saw in the very first film, right? The hacksaw, I should say, to the hung upside down female friend who's sawed in half. We see another version of that, but this time on a male body. Um, and it's shown overtly too. This is something that's happening to this
Yeah.
boy's genitals, right? We
Yeah.
get several shots of that. And so I was really fascinated by that. And I thought that was one of the most interesting things about the film is that the film went there and said, there are no boundaries anymore. The traditional boundary where the boy's body is kind of safe, right? Boys
Yeah.
can be killed, but they can't really be mutilated or terrorized in that way.
Yeah.
That no longer holds true.
Yeah, no one is safe in this movie, and one of the major film taboos it subverts entirely is murdering children on screen in vicious fashion. I mean, in that opening act with Art the Clown invading this family home shortly before Christmas in a Santa Claus outfit and just kills the entire family, including dismembering one of the children, and I assume the other one, although it
Mm.
I guess maybe happens off screen, but to see like small children die viciously and brutally at his hands was just horrifying and shocking.
Probably the most disturbing element of the film. Maybe the reason I think a person would walk out of a film like this. One of the things this film does beautifully is it just generates the poetry of horror iconography. The color palette of this film, reds and whites and uh, darkness, and different shades of gray and black. It's poetry in motion. It really is. It's an incredibly beautiful film. Speaking as a lifelong fan of horror and somebody who has a stomach for this stuff.
I agree. I agree. I love the filmmaking style here and the retro style and all of that works very well with the tone.
So yeah, definitely two thumbs up. We recommend it. That's why we did two videos on it. This has been another edition of our Halloween Horror Fest. Um, Dan and Tenian, we're closing down now. We'll bring more content your way, but happy Halloween.